Okay. Very good. So we've got Osk devotee back to Vrinda with us. Jai, welcome. Jai Nitai.
Hey,
Very good.
Jai Srila Bhakti Ranjan Madhusudan Maharaj ki Jai. Jai Srila Bhakti
Jai Srila
Goswami
Bhakti
Maharaj.
Sudhir Goswami Maharaj ki Jai. Maharaj.
Jai Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj ki Jai. Srila Bhakti
Jai.
Rakak Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj ki Jai.
Jai.
Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki Jai. Sri Radha Damodar Jiu ki Jai. And Radha Vrindavan Chandra. So Maharaj, give us a recap. Where are we now?
Well, a recap is that we are at our temple, the Sri Chaitanya Saraswati Mata Mission Seva Kunj Vrindavan. And we are in front of the deities. In front of the deities in the front passage, not the passageway, but the small area in front of the temple, between the temple and the road. And we are here as devotees, one after another, are joining us. And as we see, happily, joining us here in front of the temple in preparation for today's parikrama. And today, Maharaj, I believe by your wish, we'll start by going just around the corner to the Radha-Damodar temple. And to continue there at Srila Prabhupada's Bhajan Kutir. And our news directly from Vrindavan, just of a few minutes ago, is that 2 days ago, the Radha-Damodar temple opened up, but just very briefly for darshan. So now the Radha-Damodar temple, at certain specific times, the very few devotees in Vrindavan are able to go for darshan. So it's been a long time, but this is a positive step, if you like, in the Kartik month. And today, Priya Krishna went there, Priya Krishna Devi Dasi went there from Delhi, and she did the whole parikrama of Vrindavan, and she did send a couple of pictures, and she said, just completely quiet, which is, especially for a Sunday, especially for Kartik, normally, you know, Vrindavan will be very busy, very packed. But practically deserted streets and very, very few people. So we are going there. Now we are going to make the streets busy with our gathering of Vaishnavas and taking an opportunity that others are not going around. We will be able to come to Srila Prabhupada's room and mystically we'll be able to get around 200 devotees into his room.
Wow, that's inconceivable.
Just see, inconceivable, but now made possible by the grace of Mahaprabhu and all of this technology. The technologists do not realize that they are doing seva, but they're being engaged by Mahaprabhu for this.
Hare Krishna.
So much, we've got a few devotees have come, probably more are coming still. So would you like that we start with Panchatattva Mahamantra and a couple of Hare Krishna Mahamantras? We can consider that one of the Mahamantras is in front of the temple and the other Mahamantra is transporting us to the Radha Damodar temple. And then Nitai Gaura Haribol is we're entering to the temple.
Hare Krishna.
Let us do like this.
Leelavati Devi Dasi. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda. Shri Advaita Garadhara Sivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. More? Is more? Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nitai Gaura Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Nitai Gaura Hari Bo. Go Premanande, Hari Hari Bo.
Hari Hari Bo.
Hare Krishna. So when
So we've come to the Radha-Damodar temple. We've come in the entrance again. Let us give our obeisances in front of the deities, and let us do one parikrama around where we were yesterday, around Jiva Goswami Samadhi, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami Samadhi, around the back, around Rupa Goswami Samadhi and Bhajan Kutir, and Bhurgharva Goswami's Samadhi, Pushpa Samadhi there, and then back around into the temple compound, turn left, and then up the little steps. And then on the right, let us enter respectfully into Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada's Bhajan Kutir. So let us come in front of the Murti of Srila Prabhupada in the position of him sitting cross-legged with a pencil or a pen in his hand and writing. And let us give our full obeisances. Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki jai. And then everyone take a seat, and then Maharaj is here to guide us. Maharaj.
I want to say how pleased Srila Prabhupada would be to see Lilavati Devi Dasi not only participating in kirtan, because Prabhupada said the Chinese would be the last, but when they would take it, it would be forever and the biggest embrace. So how pleased Prabhupada is, not only participating, but leading. So some years back, Yudamanyu, Seva Vikram Prabhu, he was visiting in Chiang Mai, and he came into my room all excited, and he goes, Maharaj, and what? He goes, I thought something was wrong because he was so excited. And he said, there's a Chinese girl downstairs. She's leading the Gora Arati and singing all the songs of Bhaktivedanta Swami. Like his mind was blown and his heart was melted. So just before we began, when we began this parikrama, of course, Lilavati came, Sulakshana, and Nalina Nayana DD, who should be here. Yes, but so you can bring her up on the screen. There we go, Nalina Nayana DD. So she acted as our group leader and assisted me from the very beginning and organizing this and bringing all the devotees there. And Nalina, if you can just say some words about your experiences there in the Dham. We had many nice meetings, also with the inhabitants of the Dham, including the monkeys. And in addition to all the wonderful Brijvasis and all the wonderful temples we met, just if you can say a few words to everyone, share your experience.
Yes, Dandava Maharaj and all the worldwide devotees. As I talked to in our Chinese group, I said, every night when I get on the computer, even just seeing the pictures and the screens, the devotee's face, I already feel very home comfort.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember when in 2013, it's our first time to planning to India to visit Vrindavan. And we were very new to these cultures. But anyway, we were very excited and also nervous. I remember Goswami Maharaj gave us a don't do list when we are in Vrindavan. Because he said he will arrive in a few days later, so we arrived there first. He gave us a don't do list and also explained us, he said, oh, don't worry. Madhusudan Maharaj, he's my very dear god brothers. And also he's a very typical gentleman from Britain. So you will be okay as soon as he's there. So we arrived in Vrindavan, and of course, we met Madhusudan Maharaj. Everything's fine. So in a few days later, Maharaj arrived. I remember also the room of Gurudev in Vrindavan temple. I see the tables, his slippers, and the fence made of a plane tree. Very classic fence. And also his books displaying there. I felt whenever I enter into that room, I feel like he's watching me out. So I must say to myself, like, have to behave and act like lightly, don't want to make a disturb to him. Yeah, it's a very strange feeling. I never met him personally, but when I seen his things he used before displaying very organizedly and very nicely in the room, I felt he's there. And also, in few days later, the day is Guru Maharaj's Vyasa Puja day. Before the temple, it was quiet. And suddenly, there's many devotees shows up. And I see also many elder devotees. And someone show up in kitchen cooking, preparing. It's very, very like a family concession. The devotees, but he said, oh, it's all these devotees is from alliance, from these family trees. Elder, young, cooking, like doing different kind of service. It's the family, in that time, I was feel very much like a family, Chinese family concession. In big festival, family come together, uncle, and like different families members. And doing very big celebrations. And it's my first time seeing so much, like that much big of quantity prasadam have been distributed very nicely, very tasteful. It's very surprised that big prasadam, first time seeing that much big. And also, there are many things like in Vrindavan. We feel very true and very home comfort. There they have no worry, no anxiety, like seeing devotees, temples, everything like calm down. This is my feeling of visiting Vrindavan.
Hare Krishna, very beautiful. Jaya Nalina Nayana.
Yeah, it's also as one point of Goswami Maharaj always mentioned is really attracting me. It's these family trees.
Yes,
Yeah,
and now, Jai Nalina, and now what you're saying, we're feeling that with this virtual online parikrama. I think you mentioned that, and I think everybody's feeling that. Something extraordinary is happening, and we're all participating in it happily, and our hearts are happy, and it is as though we're mystically being transported to that plane through the process of glorifying our Guru Varga and the holy places, the Lord and all of his beautiful manifestations, and all the devotees gathered together. It is truly amazing because we're all in different parts of the world. You're in China right now. Madhusudan Maharaj is in Italy. We're here in Thailand. There are devotees from, Australia, Russia, Ukraine, Riga, India, Mexico, America, all over the world. But I feel we're very close.
Yeah.
And it reminds me, last time I saw Guru Maharaj and we knew maybe we're not going to see again each other in this plane. And he told me one thing is how painful it was for Rupa Goswami to Mahaprabhu send him to Vrindavan and stay in Puri. Kaviraj Goswami said, I can't even describe that separation that will make stone melt. But Guru Maharaj said, but association is not physical proximity, but like nearness of consciousness and heart. And you know, when you're in a family, wherever you are, you're a part of that family. And you can feel that family. And sometimes the family comes together in a joyous celebration, and sometimes they're celebrating in different locations. But there are certain times when you always think of your family and you feel them, and they feel you, and it's a reassuring thing. And what you're saying, Guru Maharaj would be very happy to hear, because one lady did say that at the Chaitanya Saraswat Math, a disciple of Srila Prabhupada. They, a senior lady disciple, they asked her to say something, and she said, what I like about Krishna consciousness is you're being given the opportunity to have a family life with Krishna. And Srila Guru Maharaj and Srila Gurudev quoted that for another 30 years. They were so happy to hear that. So we're all happy to hear you say this again, you know, maybe 50 years later, that same thing that touched the heart of Srila Guru Maharaj and the heart of Srila Gurudev, and of course of Srila Prabhupada. And we must mention also that this day, Bahulastami, is the appearance day of Sri Radha Kunda, and which we spoke about, Jai Srila Bhaktivedanta Maharaj Ki Jai. We spoke about in the last few days. And it's also the day that Srila Bhakti Sundar Govindadev Goswami Maharaj took sannyas. It's also the day that Srila Bhakti Pavan Janardhan Maharaj took sannyas. And he actually took sannyas at this very Radha Damodar temple, and those right next to the samadhi of Rupa Goswami, between the samadhi and the Bhajan Kutir. That's inconceivable in modern context, but that's where it took place. And why the Radha Damodar temple, beyond obvious reasons of why it's important to us, Srila Prabhupada's connection with it makes it supremely important and significant for all devotees. And I'm reminded of when I heard Srila Guru Maharaj say once, he said, not knowing the glories of Nityananda Prabhu is like not knowing who your mother is, right? Your mother gives birth to you. So you think, really, the birth, if we want to say foundation, but extend that to mean like birth, is Nityananda Prabhu, the grace of Nityananda Prabhu. Guru Maharaj would say, everyone knows Guru Maharaj is Rupa Goswami's man. But why is he always chanting, Dial Nitai, Dial Nitai, Dial Nitai? For foundation, he knows without the grace of Nityananda Prabhu, Krishna consciousness is a hallucination. There's no foundation there. Whatever is built upon that will topple easily. You need the foundation of the grace of Nityananda Prabhu, which means the grace of Sri Guru. He's also considered the other self of Sri Gurudev. So Guru Maharaj said that, not knowing the glories of Nityananda Prabhu is like not knowing who your mother is. And I thought, not knowing the glories of Srila Prabhupada is like not knowing who your grandfather is. Right? Because devotees in the modern time, they may say, oh, but I am initiated by such and such guru in this Krishna consciousness organization or that one, or but if not for Srila Prabhupada, none of us would be here. Or in the case of, say, the members of Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Math, we would have, I would have never discovered in the archives, the Bhaktivedanta Book Trust archives in Los Angeles, I would have never discovered this letter from Srila Prabhupada to his disciple saying, if you're interested in connecting with the Shiksha Guru, then you must go to someone who is qualified. The most qualified and competent of all my God brothers is Sridhar Maharaj. I accept him as my Shiksha Guru. So what to speak of the benefit that you can have? That was a revelation. And, you know, I wanted to share that with all my God brothers and God sisters and everyone in the world. And so many other things we discover there. And Srila Prabhupada saying, after I leave this world, you will, when the necessity arises to consult, you go to Sridhar Maharaj. So all these things we found. So if not for Prabhupada saying this, indicating Srila Guru Maharaj, even our members here, subsequently Guru Maharaj, Gurudev, etc., would not have this most wonderful, valuable connection. So in the light of it being the sannyas day of His Divine Grace, Srila Bhakti Sundar Govindadev Goswami Maharaj, I can't think of anyone better to express the glories and appreciation for His Divine Grace, Om Vishnupad, Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. So Srila Gurudev wrote 4 prayers for Srila Swami Maharaj Prabhupada. He could have written 8 or 10, or he could write, you know, it could have been 108, but it couldn't just be one, that's for sure. So include to how to properly represent the unparalleled, glorious service of Srila Prabhupada in spreading Krishna consciousness all over the world, fulfilling Bhaktivinoda Thakur's prediction, as well as Mahaprabhu's from 500 years ago to 100 years ago. So here, I'll read these verses and then we'll say something. But I think that they are just so perfect and encapsulating so many aspects of Srila Prabhupada's divine personality. And he says, Namaum Vishnu Padaya, Krishna Prestaya Bhutale, Swami Sri Bhaktivedanta, Prabhu Padaya Te Namaha, Gurbhagyam Shirasi Dritva, Shaktya Vesha Swarupine, Hare Krishneti Mantrena, Paschatya Prachtatarine. So first he said, I offer my humble obeisances unto His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, who is Krishna's beloved associate and who came down to this plane from Goloka Vrindavan, taking the order of his guru on his head. He is the Shaktavesh, empowered incarnation of Nityananda Prabhu personified. Hence my connecting those two. He distributed the Hare Krishna Maha mantra all over the Eastern and Western world, delivering and uplifting all fallen souls. He is the best of millions of Jagat Gurus because he is the personification of divine mercy. Then, Vishvacharya Prabharjaya, Divya Korunya Murtaye, Sri Bhagavata Madhurja, Gita Jnana Pradayini. He has distributed the sweet nectar of Srimad Bhagavatam and the transcendental knowledge of Bhagavad Gita all over the world. He has constantly engaged in exclusive devotional service to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur and Srila Rupa Goswami Prabhu and Sri Gauranga Mahaprabhu, Gaura Sri Rupa Siddhanta, Saraswati Nishevine, Radha Krishna Padamboja, Bringaya Guruve Namaha. I offer my humble obeisances unto Srila Prabhupada, who is like a bumblebee, always tasting the nectar of the lotus feet of Sri Sri Radha and Govinda. So, as Madhusudan Maharaj pointed out, in the room of Srila Prabhupada, there's a murti of him writing. You see, a little table, not even a chair yet, sitting on a little cushion, his table where he is writing his commentaries on the Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, he called the Science of Devotion, later became Nectar of Devotion, Chaitanya Charitamritam, Light of the Bhagavad, numerous Back to Godhead articles. So we know 1922 met Srila Saraswati Thakur, 1933 initiated, 1944 started the Back to Godhead magazine, 1955, Vanaprastha, then Sannyas. 1966, 65, 66, he takes Krishna consciousness to America. But from this room in Radha Damodar, we're told, we hear the statement, Vaishnavera Kriya Mudra Vigyeha Nabujoy, that don't try and judge a Vaishnava in any way, but particularly from an external point of view. So if you'd seen Srila Prabhupada at that time, he might leave his room, go to the Loy Bazaar market, buy some cauliflower, some different things in a net bag, take it back to his room, cook a little something, some rice, dal, chapati, sabji, and then he's writing those books and taking the holy name of Krishna from his room. When you open the doors, what's amazing is he could see Radha Damodar. He has darshan of the deities from within his room. All you have to do is open those two doors and you can see them. So how perfectly situated he was. And there at the Samadhi of Rupa Goswami, Bhajan Kutir, Jiva Goswami, Krishna's Kaviraj Goswami Prabhu. So why is Prabhupada there? He left the family life. He once wrote a postcard to Srila Guru Maharaj, and he said, now that I am penniless, because he used to be inventor, chemist, pharmacist, and he said, now that I am penniless, the only thing that remains of my family life is a long list of names. So once they knew he didn't have any money, no more interest, right? And he said, I am disgusted with the whole of human civilization. He said, the animals seem more friendly to me. And so, Guru Maharaj has these postcards that would, be postmarked Vrindavan from Srila Prabhupada. But why is he there? Sometimes it would be a mistake to think Prabhupada started preaching in 1965 or 66. He's always preaching since he was a child. He organized Ratha Yatra festivals, and when he was a Grihasta in the Gaudiya Math days, having programs at his house. And when he was there in Radha Damodar temple, you can see he's writing letters and inviting people for a Janmashtami celebration, Radhastami, different festivals. So he's always preaching. But he remembered incessantly the advice, the order given to him by Srila Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Thakur, saying that I want you to take Krishna consciousness to the Western countries, particularly America. They call Markina Loka. Right? So Guru Maharaj has written in one of his pranams to Srila Saraswati Thakur, the last line says, Vilasatu Hridi Nityam Bhakti Siddhanta Bani. So remember, Saraswati Thakur's name, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati. Guru Maharaj takes the word Saraswati and turns it into Vani, because Saraswati is the goddess of speech and many other things. And this is divine, but it shows his poetic expertise. So he says, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati, Bhakti Siddhanta Vani. Vilasatu Hridi Nityam. He's saying, may the divine voice of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur forever play upon our hearts. That's what he's saying. And this is not just sweet sounding poetry, but he means in the deep heart's core, you can never forget this voice. So Prabhupada, Swami Maharaj, he's always hearing Saraswati Thakur preach this Krishna consciousness in the English language in the Western countries. So that's what he's doing. I found in the archives in ISKCON Press many years ago, his original manuscripts that he typed upon. And I'd turn the page and then there would be like a business contract. And at first I was a little bewildered, like, why is Prabhupada writing that? And then I'm like, oh, he's not doing that. Then it occurred to me many years later, he had so little money, he could not buy virgin paper, right? So in India, because they never throw anything away, you could go to a store and buy paper that had already been typed on, then turn it over and use that side. That's what he was doing. That gives you a hint of how little funding he had. But as Guru Maharaj told me once, if you are sincere to preach Mahaprabhu's creed, he said, then do not doubt that he will personally supply all the resources necessary for your seva. Don't doubt that. Mahaprabhu, the Panchatattva, told the same thing to Saraswati Thakur. So Prabhupada, sometimes he'd say, I'm blindly following my Guru Maharaj. He said to do this, this is what I do. And sometimes he would say, I do not know what the result is, but he got very good results. Right? And he could also relish getting these reports of the millions of books being distributed and hundreds of centers being established, deities worshipped, etc. But still, this is before that, and he's there, and the voice of Saraswati Thakur is playing upon his heart in the deep heart's core. So he's there typing the Bhagavatam and other things, and he persistently, he's pushing a lady who owns a steamship company. They have boats that are going from commercial boats going from India to America. And there's maybe 6 rooms available for passengers, but really it's a commercial ship, cargo. So he's asking this lady for free passage because he wants to fulfill the order of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. That's why he says, Gur Bhagyam Shridashi Darjam, taking his order on his head. And Prabhupada says himself, he said, he was reading Bhagavad Gita, Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur's commentary on the sloka Vyavasayatmika Buddhi Ekeha Kurunandana, which Prabhupada rendered as resolute determination. He said, reading this, he had an epiphany that his sole purpose for existence was to fulfill the order of his Gurudev. Right? And Guru Maharaj will say later, wholly emptying himself of any other desire than that. Very important to grasp. So the lady, it's nothing for her to give that room on the ship, but she's making excuses not to. And then you think, why? Is she so cruel? And later she said, I'm thinking, he's so old, he won't survive. It's 30 days on a boat, 30. She's thinking, he won't survive the journey, and then I will have the death of such a sadhu on my hands. That's why she was declining. But then Krishna gave her some special inspiration. And then she said, all right, because he just kept Prabhupada so persistent. And this is all right, Swamiji, yes, you know. And then Prabhupada boards the ship Jaladuta. And I got to see his diary, there we go, in the ISKCON Press archives. They give each passenger a little white book to like put your journey in. And Prabhupada, ever fastidious, and like, if he goes to the market, it says, 50 paisa on full gobi, 2 rupees on postage. Like, he kept a record of everything, meticulous record. So I'm like looking through, but then I see the ship has left because it started in Calcutta, but then went to South India. Then it's out in the ocean. And once it's out in the ocean, you're just surrounded by ocean on all sides. And Prabhupada, then this entry, very like a change takes, and you see, and he says, I am feeling deep separation from my worshipable lords, Radha Damodar, Radha Madan Mohan, Radha Rama. He starts Radha Govinda. He starts naming the principal deities of Vrindavan, but particularly Radha Damodar. And he said, I depend exclusively upon their mercy so far away from Vrindavan. So the boat is moving away, and Prabhupada is offering himself on the altar of self-sacrifice. And then a few more days go by, and this quote is very beautiful. And he reveals the source of his vitality and inspiration. He says, daily I am relishing the nectarine of Chaitanya Leela, so L-E-E-L-A. Daily I am relishing the nectarine of Chaitanya Leela, the source of my all vitality. So he's on, what is he reading? Sri Chaitanya Charitamritam, the greatest literature to have ever seen the light of day in all time, all space, all creations. That, the source of my all vitality, Chaitanya Leela. And then it goes on, and then you see like a gash over these 3-4 days. And that's when Srila Prabhupada had a heart attack, right? Maybe more than one, like 2. So he almost leaves the world. And then we think, Krishna, how do you do this? He's so sincere. Was there any doubt? Why is it like this? And we see, so sometimes we think, is Krishna cruel? He sometimes hides himself from the Braja Gopis, and Vishwanath Chakrabarti comes to our aid, and he's saying, Krishna is so addicted to a particular type of love from the hearts of his devotees, the deepest sort of Krishna prem, that only is produced when the maximum amount of pressure is put upon the heart. And they're put in, that's why Krishna Lila is full of these incredible incidents where they're like right to the point of death or beyond. Some, like the cowherd boys entering Agasura. Technically, they leave the world, then Krishna brings them back. Always in the coils of Kaliya, right at the, then Krishna. So here, Prabhupada, he's offering himself on the altar of self-sacrifice. What the last thing, a heart attack, right? And Guru Maharaj said it this way. He's saying he had wholly emptied himself of any other desire than to fulfill the order of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And at that moment, when he's offering himself fully on the altar of self-sacrifice, ready to die for this mission. And then the heart attack, second heart attack. Then Guru Maharaj said, divine power came down to work on his behalf. Nityananda Prabhu, Shaktavesh avatar of Nityananda Prabhu. Guru Maharaj revealed that. And the ship's captain, who keeps the captain's log, he said something like, in 30, 40 years of sailing the ocean, I've never seen this. Prabhupada had a dream where Krishna says, his name, remember, was Abhay, which means fearless. So it's like a play on Krishna saying, don't worry, Abhay, right? He said, I am in charge of the boat now. And the captain says, suddenly the ocean has turned into a pond. There are no waves. It's miraculous in every sense of the term. So then, and what I like especially, then the next page, so the gash, like that across 2 pages, then the next page, and Prabhupada says, today I made bati chachari. That's this Bengali comfort food. Looks like little julienne potatoes. Bati means the bowl. It's when you cook in the bowl you'll eat from. That means you're in a very, Spartan circumstance. He said, today I made bati chachari and I'm like feeling better. Pure Bengali, little mustard oil. So then he arrives in Boston, and not New York. It's first Boston, and then it proceeds to New York. So they can't disembark in Boston. You have to stay on the ship. Right? So he composes two poems. One's called Markine Bhagavata Dharma, means preaching Bhagavat Dharma in America. And the other one, there you go, it's called Prayer to the Lotus Feet of Krishna. So in the first one, it's like a preaching type poem, and he even quotes these verses, some favorite verses of his from the Bhagavatam. Tada rajastamo bhava kamalobha dayasya cheta etaranadvidam stitam satve prasidati. You know, like, and what does it say? It says, the passion, the population is overwhelmed by the modes of passion and ignorance. But if they will hear your message, the message of Godhead, like Srinvata, Swakata, Krishna, Punya, Shravana, Kirtana, it's very beautiful. So he's saying, these people who are like this, but if they will hear your message, if they will hear Krishna Katha, this marvelous transformation will take place. And the stranglehold that lust has upon the heart will be released when they hear of the inconceivably all attractive beauty of Madan Mohan Krishna, who we will hear more about later. So he writes that poem, and toward the end, it's so beautiful and so moving. So he quotes the Bhagavatam slokas, has his poetry, and then he says, I do not know why you have brought me to such a place. He said, but I suppose you have some, purpose. So if you have brought me here to dance, make me dance, oh Lord, make me dance. And boy, did he dance. And he got the whole world to dance with him and his Hare Krishna Maha mantra. And then it's signed, the insignificant beggar, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, like that. Such humility. But he's saying to Krishna, use me. And Guru is saying, divine power had to come down and work on his behalf. And once I shared this in a Vyas Puja offering, and it went through, proofreaders, this person, that person, and someone objected. And the leader asked me to say, he said, well, one devotee has an objection saying that Krishna doesn't have to do anything. And you're saying he had to come down, divine power, And I said, well, that's a good point. But in the 9th canto of the Bhagavatam, Krishna says, Ahang bhakta paradino, yasvan tantra ivadvija, sadhu bir bhakta hridaya, bhakta janapriya. Although it's declared in the beginning of the Bhagavatam, I'm Swarat, independent. I don't have to do anything. But in the presence of devotion, I lose my independence. And Guru Maharaj said, devotion is detected where the infinite comes under the control of the finite. So as Guru Maharaj said, divine power had to come down and work on his behalf. Ye prayaso jita jito piyasi taistrelokyam. Krishna is ajita, unconquerable, but he's conquered by love and devotion. And we'll see in the second poem how Srila Prabhupada, how sweetly he's like Arjuna. He's got the best strategy for winning this war. As Saraswati Thakur said, kirtan means a fight. Who does Arjuna choose? Krishna. There's so many weapons, armies, this, that, who does he choose? Krishna. So that poem signed, Insignificant Beggar, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami. Next poem, remember, sitting on the boat still. Next poem. Here is more his ecstatic, emotional interior, very private. And remember this, that Srila Prabhupada, he didn't know anyone is ever going to read these. We may take that for granted now and say, oh, we've got a picture and it's in the Bhaktivedanta Book Trust, But at the time he's writing this, that is not his thought. This is just sincere expression of his heart. And particularly in the second poem, it's all internal, because we accept Srila Prabhupada as an eternally, a Nitya Siddha, eternally liberated associate of the Lord who descended in this world for divine purpose. So in that, he says, and it's interesting because it's the situation he's in externally, but internally as well. And he said, today I was feeling very deep separation from you. Now he's talking to Krishna directly. And he said, so I cried out to you because it just got to be too much. It was too intense. I'm feeling so much separation from you. So I cried out to you today. And I must say that I can't wait for those days when you and I will be running and frolicking, playing in the forest of Vrindavan, and then eating lunch together on the banks of the Jamuna. That's what he's saying. You think about that. He is not one of these people who easily says these things. Right? He never says these things. But here he's written that. When you and I will be running and playing together in the forest of Vrindavan, and then eating lunch together on the banks of the Jamuna, like Krishna and the cowherd boys. And then he said, but until that time, my guru has given me some order. Right? And here's Guru Maharaj's interpretation entering. That, and Gaudiya Lina, we told, Guru is seen as Nityananda Prabhu or Srimati Radharani, her delegation. That way covers everything. So we already mentioned, and we'll mention a little more about Nityananda Prabhu. Can't say enough about Ananta Sheikh. But so what are they saying? So Prabhupada, so he says to Krishna, he said, but my guru. So another way of saying my guru has given me an order, he's saying, and it's there, saying Radharani Kushi Habe, Krishna Boli Tomatai, Radharani Kushi, etc. Krishna Radharani Kushi Habe. Like you can sing this. So he says, here's another way, more to the point of what he's saying. Radharani is my guru. Right? She's also guru of the highest section of the Subal, the leader of that, the highest section of cowherd boys. They take messages between Radha and Krishna and Brajagopi. So he's saying, Radharani, who's our guru, she's given this order. Right? So I feel myself unfit and unqualified to fulfill that order, saying, but you, my dear brother, that's Bhai. He says, Krishna, my brother. Just think about that. That very word. He says to Krishna, my dear brother. He's not talking to others. He's talking to Krishna. My dear brother, if you will help me do this, then just think about this. How pleased Radharani will be with you, and then you will get her association. So help me do this, and the reward will be the association of Radharani. Right? So he made Krishna an offer he couldn't refuse. You understand? So then Krishna, he's working on behalf of Srila Prabhupada. That is the point. The infinite has come under the control of the finite. And then in 1976, we had the good fortune to be with His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada in Washington, D.C. It's like the 200th anniversary of the birth of America and all that. But these days, a little bit after comes the day in September when Prabhupada arrived in America. So we're reading these poems to him, and he's listening, and Sureshri Didi made a big cake, and But when that line came about the passion is overwhelmed by the modes of passion and ignorance. And Prabhupada stopped and he said, he started laughing. He said, how could I know? I hadn't got off the boat yet. You know, so Trikalagya, you know, the vision of Veda Vyas, right? Thank you. They're celebrating right now. So, and then of course, Srila Prabhupada, he gets off the boat, he enters New York. What has he got in his trunks? He's got some metal trunks with him, those famous Indian trunks. Srimad Bhagavatams, mridangas, kartals, and you know, his little cooker. That's it. These are the things he brings. And he spends a year, again, he's always trying to preach. Stays with some nice Indian families, someone arranged a little program at a university, talk to the students, little home program, this, that, the other thing. And what is he doing? He sometimes has to be a roommate with someone who may not be vegetarian even. And he goes to bookshops. Full sannyas vesh. I saw Prabhupada's passport. You open it up, big tilak, no shirt, just the uttariya of the sannyasi and the bahirvas, because those are the two pieces of cloth of sannyas. And then big tilak everywhere, and he's looking like that. And it says, where it says father, he wrote Bhaktivedanta Saraswati. Like, that's my father. You know? So that Prabhupada and his full sannyas vesh has a coat from the Goodwill store. You know, it costs like $1 or something, an old wool coat that someone donated to Goodwill or the Salvation Army. Jaya Radha-Madhava Maharaj later was the recipient of that coat. So what does he do? He's going to bookstores and trying to sell Bhagavatams. That's what he's doing. Gurudev distributed his Back to Godhead when it was published in the 40s. And Prabhupada's the first book distributor in America, distributing his Srimad Bhagavatams. And so he tries for a year and not much success, to be honest. Right? So he's going down to that Scindia steamship company, and they have a blackboard with chalk, and it'll say like, next boat leaving on this date. And he's thinking to return to India. He sends some letter to the God Brothers, shows, here's a nice building I could get for preaching. No one's responding. So he's thinking, well, I tried my best. I'm gonna go back to India. He keeps going down there, but like delay a month, gets a little sick, this, that. He's thinking maybe he'll leave the world. He writes Guru Maharaj's letter. What should I do? I'm thinking just to return to Vrindavan. Guru Maharaj said, no, Prabhupada, this is your Prabhu Datta Desh. Prabhupada Saraswati Thakur gave you this place. You will stay there. And Prabhupada said, I take your order like on my head as if it's coming from Saraswati Thakur himself. But one of those days he's looking on the chalkboard. This Dr. Howard Wheeler, an English professor, later becomes Hayagriva Prabhu, sees him and he says, are you from India? Are you coming from India? You know, and Srila Prabhupada, am I coming from India? I've descended from Goloka Vrindavan. Let me tell you about it. You know, come from Krishna's abode. Gurudev once said in Hungary, Siddhanti Maharaj told me on Prabhupada's appearance day that because he's the day after Janmashtami, Krishna, there are so many gifts, all the people have brought, and Krishna said, how will I distribute all this wealth? It's Chinmoy, spiritual wealth. And Prabhupada comes forward and said, I will. He volunteers to descend in this world and distribute the wealth of Krishna consciousness. So then he's an English teacher. What does he do? He becomes his editor for his books because they're all in Indian English, in Indianized English. It's delightful to read the original books where the Gopas are called cowboys and the Gopis are called cowgirls and things like that. You know, it's very sweet there. And that Hayagriva Prabhu, He knows the famous beat poet Allen Ginsberg, who's connected to all the beat people and the hippies, and he's one of the leaders of the hippie movement. And he falls in love with Prabhupada, actually gives him a harmonium that he brought back from India. And he starts telling everybody to chant Hare Krishna. And what do we say? So gradually, Prabhupada opened a center in New York, then San Francisco, Montreal. The movement starts growing and developing. He would say to people things like, we've all seen, in his lecture, we've all seen pictures of Krishna in the marketplace, on a calendar or a poster, and then you'll hear him stop and go, oh. And when he realizes, these people, turn the volume down, these people have never seen a picture of Krishna, right? What he assumed, he realized they've never seen a picture of Krishna. So artists come to him, he starts an art department, producing so many pictures of Krishna that adorn all of his books. And miraculous things happen in the publishing of those books. He challenged Rameshwar Maharaj and all the devotees in Los Angeles at the Book Trust to print the Chaitanya Charitamritam. It's 18 volumes, to do it in 18 months, or 17 and 18 months, whatever. And they accepted that day and night. They're making paintings, proofreading, typesetting, transcribing, editing, everything. And they met that deadline. Think, every month, a 400-page book for 18 months. And fully illustrated, hardbound, you know. And when because he had done the first chapters of Chaitanya Charitamritam at that table there, you see in his room at Radha Damodar, first 5 chapters or so. That was the last book to be published because it was off a manuscript, these legal size papers. All the other books were from the dictaphone. So they got published first. So the volume 1, the very important, you know, that lays the foundation, that was the last one to be published. And I was on the BBT library party at that time, and we were in Atlanta, Georgia, doing the universities there. And so it came out, and, you know, I've been waiting a long time for this, as so many devotees were excited, and there it was, you know. So I read it, and also showing it to the professors to get them to order Prabhupada's books. Standing orders for the libraries means, will they order every single book as it comes out? And so had the inconceivable good fortune to be on a morning walk with Srila Prabhupada in Atlanta. And as was his custom, he liked to spar about life comes from life, about science. Like Guru Maharaj had subjective evolution of consciousness. Prabhupada had life comes from life. And he needed a scientist. There he is. He needed a scientist to engage in mock debate with. So Srup Damodar Maharaj was from Emory University in Atlanta, Georgia. So he was there. And so, and he was a very humble devotee from Manipur, very Sharal Vaishnav. He'd be in the back of the group. And Prabhupada would be walking royally with his stick, as he did. And I remember once when he's doing that in Delhi, this Lodi Woodland Park with all these lotus, we're going around that, and Prabhupada stopped for a minute, and he picked up these flowers, and he put one behind this ear, and then one behind his other ear, and he's all decorated with sandalwood, and he's walking. And then whatever he did, we would just shamelessly imitate, like a bunch of children. So we all jump on those bushes, we're plucking, and we put a flower behind each ear. And it was like, I would like to say, it was like a swan, mother swan with the baby swans behind, the Paramahansa swan at the front. Prabhupada walking like that. with the flower, and we're all behind them, and we all have the flowers, and our heads are tilted, you know, like totally mad. You know, Ami ekbutul tumi dvitiya. I'm crazy number one, you're crazy number two. But Prabhupada did write a pamphlet once called "Who is Crazy?" You know. But anyway, so Prabhupada, what was I saying? Oh, on that walk. So he'd walk and then he'd stop and he'd go, "Scientist," just like that. You go, "Scientist," and then Srila Damodar Maharaj would come walking up from the back, and he'd turn and go, "I say life comes from life, not from matter. What do you say?" And then they would start and go back and forth, and it's very sweet. And Srila Damodar, such a gentleman, he would give a real represent science, but never cross that. It was always you know, from the heart and within the parameters of gentlemanly behavior. So, but this morning, and then it went on for a little while, and I had the opportunity to say something to Prabhupada. It just happened to me on the university when I presented the books to a professor, and this professor turned to me and he goes, "What he's done is astonishing." He said, "It's amazing." And I said, "You know, it's 17 volumes in 18 months. It's, you know," and he was expressing genuine appreciation. He said, original Sanskrit or original Bengali, word for word synonyms, translation, purport, commentaries, glossary, fully illustrated, you know. So I said to Srila Prabhupada, I said, "Prabhupada, I just presented like Adi Leela Volume 1 to one professor, and he said he is amazed at what you were able to do in publishing these books." And immediately Prabhupada's humility said, "There is Jaya Radha, and Pradumna." He started naming his assistants and like saying, "Because of them, I'm able to do all these things." I said, "But Prabhupada, respectfully, they know that you have some help. Still, they are amazed at what you're publishing and producing." And then Prabhupada stopped and he said, "They are amazed. I am amazed." His eyes got very big. Like, "I am amazed." And it was truly amazing. So think about this. So then hundreds of millions of books distributed all over the world. And Prabhupada, when he had entered New York City, he had like $10, $14, really, and signed that poem, "The Insignificant Beggar, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami. Nowhere to stay." Then by 1976, this, well, I like to call it skyscraper in Manhattan, and Maharaj knows, what was it? West 54th Street. Right? So it's a wonderful thing that when devotees are in different parts of the world, when you ask, like when they want to make a temple, they'll always say, "We want to make a Vedic temple," you know, and then they'll show something that resembles a Vedic temple. And that's a wonderful thing. I'm not saying it is, that's a nice thing to do. It's beautiful. And then the people appreciate the Vedic architecture and all that. But the reason I'm mentioning this, when they asked Prabhupada what he wanted, that's not what his answer was. When they say, "What do you want, Prabhupada?" He said, "I want a glass skyscraper that says ISKCON on it." So he wanted like those glass buildings we always see. He said, "That's what I want." And I wanted to say, you know, ISKCON, International Society for Krishna Consciousness. Right? That was his idea. Not a Vedic temple, you know, that's and you know, not that he doesn't appreciate that too. If he wanted that glass skyscraper, he's thinking big. Told them in Calcutta, where they have Victoria Memorial, this giant capitol, and looks like some sort of angelic lady on the top. He told us, "Go and ask the West Bengal government to change it to Gauranga Memorial. Told Sripad Bhakti Vigrahanyasi Maharaj when he was Sri Govinda Prabhu, the president of ISKCON Chicago. They have an airport there called O'Hare, apostrophe, H-A-R-E, pronounced O'Hare. Prabhupada said, you should go to the mayor's office and ask him to change the name to O Hare Krishna International Airport. And of course, Nyasi Maharaj being the exclusive servitor is, yes, Prabhupada, And so Prabhupada would ask us to do, impossible things or amazing things. Like he would challenge the Americans. He'd say, you're an American. You must do something big for Krishna. Otherwise, what is the benefit of being an American? Things like that. Always challenging the devotees to do something extraordinary. He wasn't interested in recruiting bead counters. Neither was Srila Saraswati Thakur, who said kirtan means a fight, making propaganda in favor of Krishna conception. So that Prabhupada, in 1976, he got that skyscraper. May not have been glass, but he got that building in Midtown Manhattan in New York City. And there was a Ratha Yatra scheduled for that. And Prabhupada, he's the best PR man also. So all the reporters come and, they're sitting there with their pen and paper and they want that lead, that lead quote, the money quote. They want to get that something special that they can put in their stories. And he presents it this way. And remember, apologies, but it's in America, in New York City, New Yorkers, etc. So he says, and he knows how to flatter the ego of where he is, how to work the crowd, so to speak, audience. And he says, America is the most important country in the world. And they're all like, oh, yeah, America's fun. And then he said, in America, New York is the most important city. They go, oh, yeah, so far, New York City. And, if I can do it there, I can do it anywhere. New York, New York, New York. Yes, there you go. In New York City, which is the most important city in the most important country, Fifth Avenue is the most important street. Yeah, it's Fifth Avenue. And he said, on that street, we're having our Ratha Yatra festival. That was his way of delivering the message. So on the most important street and the most important city and the most important country in the world, that's where we're having our Jagannath Ratha Yatra. And that's what they write down. And just before this, I want to say, so this way, that before coming to this conclusion, there is a mystic sloka from the Mahabharata that Gopinatha Charja and Charitamritam and all the Vaishnavas since quote this sloka to assert the divinity of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Chaitanya Avatar, right? Because it's not overt. It could go in different, toward Vishnu or this way or that way, but it is Suvarna Varna Hemango, Barangas Chandanagadi, Sannyasa Kritchama Chanta, Nishta Shanti Parayana. So generally, Suvarna Varna, means the golden color. So Hemanga, all of his limbs are golden, and so it's covered with chandan, and he takes sannyas to save the world, and so it's shown to indicate the predicting that Mahaprabhu will appear. But when I was over the years collecting different, making different observations of things Srila Prabhupada said in his poetry and his Bhagavatam purports, letters, many different things. And when I got Srila Guru Maharaj to interpret those poems also, I said, well, I have these other things that I'm considering, and like, what do you think about them? You know, and Guru Maharaj confirmed them and expanded them further and clarified certain things that were not yet clear to me. And it took me and after that, many years to connect it all to this verse, right? But so he said, Suvarna Varna, like Prabhupada will mention his Day family, the name, his family name. This family line, it's known. They were, Suvarna Varna can also mean gold merchants. It can also mean that, Hemanga, Suvarna Varna Hemanga, that they are gold merchants. And his family line was like that. And we're told, if you go back in that family line, you'll find Nityananda Prabhu loved that family very much. And he was very mercifully disposed toward them. So they're like favorite to Nityananda Prabhu. And he's like, who is unlimitedly merciful. He's giving them even more mercy because he really loves them, that line. Suvarna Varna Hemango, Barangas Chandanagadi. And anyone who knows Srila Prabhupada, now it's one thing we'll see at these auspicious occasions, like devotees, you see at the Mutt, they have a little tray of some sandalwood pulp and they take a marigold, dip it in there and put it on Mars, everyone's head, they first put a garland, then put a little chandan on your head. And the chandan's mixed with camphor and like that. But you'll see these pictures of Srila Prabhupada where his entire forehead, and sometimes what you don't see, other parts of his body are covered in sandalwood. Think about this. The Shaktivesh empowerment descending in him, let's just say from, besides all the internal implications, that also like Prabhupada's kind of on fire all the time, like even his body temperature. And when you'd see him, he appeared like golden, like Gauranga, like his limbs were very golden, sometimes almost like translucent golden. And the head, very hot, like everything that's going through his brain and heart and soul and consideration of how to spread Krishna consciousness. While the only time Prabhupada got any peace was when we went to sleep, you know. So you're from like 10 p.m. to 4 a.m. And what did he do during that period? Translate Srimad Bhagavatam, charting all these books. And sometimes you'd see, and he'd like nod off for a few minutes, then wake up again and pick up the dictaphone. Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur says in this connection, you know. So tirelessly, he's working around the clock. So Barangas Chandanagadi, it's hard to imagine Srila Prabhupada without sandalwood pulp on him, actually, to that degree. And even his aroma was like sandalwood, due to being covered in sandalwood. If you got close to him, it was an aroma of mustard oil, sandalwood, you know, and a little camphor. So, and we're on the sannyasa krishtamat santo, that then he will take sannyas. Saraswati Thakur appearing in a dream to him, repeatedly saying, come out, when he was still in household life and realizing, oh, Saraswati Thakur. And one lecture, Prabhupada's like teasing, and he said, and I thought, oh, how horrible. And it sounded like he was saying how horrible, but he was saying horrible, but horrible. But he laughed, you know. He's showing, this is his leela, his pastimes, like, oh, you know, I'm afraid, you know, he's not. So he takes sannyas, and then, you know, Nishta Shanti Parayana. Back to that little diary he's keeping on the Jaladuta. So first of all, that ship that carries his divine grace, it's called Jaladuta. Like we've heard of Hamsaduta, the book of Rupa Goswami, where a swan carries a message from Lalita Saki to Krishna. We've heard of Megaduta, of the great poet Kalidas, right? The cloud as messenger. But this ship's called Jaladuta, means water messenger. Right? And then in that little book, if you look at the running heads at the top of the pages, it says, you know, we carry India's message of peace and goodwill, like Nishta Shanti Parayana, right? So you add all these things together, Suvarna Varna Hemango, Barandas Chandanagadi, Sannyasa Krich Tamak-shanto, Nishta Shanti Parayana. And mysteriously, wonderfully, this sloka from the Mahabharata is equally applicable to His Divine Grace, Om Vishnupad, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And that Prabhupada, who entered America, the penniless, when he left, so that was his, how do you say, in terms of preaching, besides the book publishing, his magnum opus in the sense like Ratha Yatra on 5th Avenue in New York, and Maharaj knows 5th Avenue very well, how important it is. So you see 3 chariots. So 5th Avenue shut down, right? And they call them New York's finest. The policemen in front, all along the sides for crowd control. That street is shut down. That's like, they just never do that. And right, very rarely. So he always rode on Subhadra's chariot. So it'd be Jagannath, Baladev, then Subhadra, the smaller one, and Prabhupada would sit there. So his idea is that to glorify Krishna, and this is the principal pastime of Mahaprabhu and his associates, celebrating, the separation zenith point achieved in Kurukshetra, and Mahaprabhu dancing before Jagannath and enveloped in Radha Bhav, etc. But it took many years of thinking for me to understand, as much as it was a glorification to Krishna, Prabhupada left the world within a year of this event, practically. And then you can see in retrospect, it was actually Krishna's gift to Srila Prabhupada. What it really was is a celebration of his devotion. Think of it there's Jagannath, but it's like, who entered New York City penniless. Now Krishna has him on a chariot on the most important street in the most important city, most important country in the world, being paraded down like the ultimate glorious victory. He's, what they call, the American dream or the Hollywood ending. The immigrant comes, and then how does he leave a grand success? Like, he's conquered America like that. He's the victor. So he has this victorious parade. And Prabhupada's heart, it's all for Jagannath, Krishna, the glory of his Guru Maharaj, and Krishna consciousness. And that is true. But really, I think it was Krishna's, Krishna is very devious and tricky, right? And he always wants to glorify his devotee. So in the name of him being, yes, but really, Krishna wants that the devotee will, a spotlight will be shown upon their devotion. So this was his gift to Srila Prabhupada, to parade him down that street one last time. And that was in 1976. And Srila Prabhupada left the world in 1977. So all the devotees in whatever mission worldwide have a debt. Besides his direct disciples, everyone is indirectly a disciple of His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Hare Krishna. We're in Prabhupada's room at Radha Damodar. So, and there's a child garlanding Prabhupada. So Maharaj,
Yes,
Bhakti
Maharaj.
Madhusudan Maharaj. We're approaching 9 o'clock. So I think it's time to sing a song that Prabhupada liked. I won't sing it the way he sang it. I think that's reserved for him. We'll sing it a little Chaitanya Saraswati style. Prabhupada had a certain way of singing that. I like to leave that for him. But it was like his favorite, like Yasomati Nandana Saraswati Thakur's favorite song. Guru Maharaj is always asking Gurudev to sing Amana Durmati and others, but like that must always be for Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, it's Jaya Radha-Madhava. And that will also be a good song to sing at this time. And tomorrow is the appearance of Srila Guru Maharaj. And then the parikrama tomorrow night, I think we're going to have a program here in the morning, but again, meet in the evening and speak on the glories of Om Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj. Correct? And I want to say, I know tomorrow morning I'll be able to speak extensively about Guru Maharaj, but in the evening I want to speak less to give everyone else the opportunity, because I've been so much opportunity, and let here and also some devotees from around the world, dear disciples of Srila Gurudev, and some disciples of Srila Guru Maharaj himself, like Devashi's Prabhu and others, to have some opportunity to glorify Srila Guru Maharaj. Jaya Radha-Madhava, Jaya Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha-Madhava, Jaya Kunja Bihari. Kartavs. Gopi Jana Balava, Jaya Giribanadari, Jaya Giribanadari. Balava. Gopi Jana Balava, Jaya Giribanadari, Jaya Giribanadari. Yasoda Nandana, Jaya Braja Jana Ranjana, Jaya Braja Jana Ranjana. And what's up there? Yasoda Nandana, Jaya Braja Jana Ranjana, Jaya Braja Jana Ranjana. Jaya Jamuna Tirabanachari Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Jamuna Tirabanachari Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha-Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Balava Jayo Giri Banadari Jayo Giri Baradari Jashoda Nandana Jayo Braja Jana Ranjana Jayo Braja Jana Ranjana Jashoda Nandana Jayo Jamuna Tirabanachari Jayo Kunja Bihari Jayo Jamuna Tirabanachari Jai Kunja Bihari Jamuna Tirabanachari Jai Kunja Bihari Jaya Jamuna Tirabanachari Jai Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nitai Gaur Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Gaur Hari Bo. Haribo, Haribo, go to Haribo. Go Premanande, Hari Haribo. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrajagacharya, Astateras of the Sri Srimad, His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Sri Radha-Damodar Ji Ki Jai, Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrajagacharya, Astateras of the Sri Srimad, Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai, Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Rakak Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai, Bhagavan Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai, Jai Paramahansa Thakur Srila Gauraka Shodas Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai, Jai Om Vishnupad Sri Srila Satchidananda Bhaktivinoda Thakur Ki Jai, Jai Om Vishnupad Vaishnava Sarvabhauma Sri Srila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai, Sri Rupanuga Guru Varga Ki Jai, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai, Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Binda Ki Jai, Sri Radha Krishna Gopinath Shyamakunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai, Jai Savarikar Sri Krishna Balaram Ji Ki Jai, Sri Nitai Gauranga Ki Jai, Ganga Devi Jamuna Devi Bhakti Devi Tulsi Devi Ki Jai, Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai, Krishna Balaram Mandir Ki Jai, Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Mat Ki Jai, Sri Gupta Govardhan Ki Jai, Sri Vila Govinda Ki Jai, Sri Chaitanya Saraswat International Mat Ki Jai, Ganga Devi Jamuna Devi Bhakti Devi Tulsi Devi Ki Jai, Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Mat Acharya Vrinda Ki Jai, Jai Srila Bhakti Nirmala Acharya Maharaj Ki Jai, Jai Srila Bhakti Pavan Janardhan Maharaj Ki Jai, Jai Srila Bhakti Kusum Ashram Maharaj Ki Jai, Jai Srila Bhakti Vijay Trivakram Maharaj Ki Jai, Jai Srila Bhakti Ranjan Madhusudan Maharaj Ki Jai, Jai Srila Bhakti Vimalavadut Maharaj Ki Jai, Jai Sri Devashish Prabhu Ki Jai, Sriman Paramananda Prabhu Ki Jai, Sri Bhakti Lalita Devi Dasi Ki Jai, Sri Lekha Didi Ki Jai, Munendra Mohan Prabhu Ki Jai, Krishna Kanta Didi Ki Jai, all the senior Vaishnava Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai, the Seva Vrinda Ki Jai, Bahulastami Ki Jai, the appearance of Sri Radha Kund Ki Jai, Seva Vrinda Ki Jai, Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai, Nitai Go Premanande, and the Sri Brajamandal virtual parikrama Ki Jai, or the virtual Brajamandal parikrama Ki Jai, the Brajamandal online parikrama Ki Jai. Anyway, you can participate, and for those who are doing this in Vrindavan right now, Ki Jai. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Nitai Go Premanande. Haribo.
Haribo.
Jai Madhusudan Maharaj. So say a few concluding words.
Well, a few concluding words, Maharaj. Let us come from Srila Prabhupada's room one by one. Come out, give our obeisances to the deities of Radha Damodar as we leave from the temple, and we'll just walk around the corner to our own temple, Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Matan Mission, to the deities of Saparika Shishi Guru, Gauranga Gandhavika Rasa Bihari Ju Ki Jai. And then, Maharaj, for today, Prashadam, rest and relax. Tomorrow is a big day. It's Guru Maharaj's Vyasa Puja day. So please, devotees, join us again tomorrow. It will be a special day in the temple in glorification of Srila Guru Maharaj. Jai Shri Kartik Parikrama Ki Jai, and Jai Shri Adivasa Srila Guru Maharaj Shri Vyasa Puja Ki Jai. All the assembled and worldwide devotees Ki Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bo.
Jai Susmita Devi. Hare Krishna. And your good friend, also teacher.
Her name, Fumar.
Fumar?
Yeah, Fumar.
Hare Krishna. Fumar Didi. Hare Krishna. Chaitanya Moyin Dhananjaya Prabhu in Rome. Hare Krishna. When in Vrindavan, do as the Brijbasis do. No, excuse me. Actually, no, stay respectful distance from them and follow Sanatana Goswami. Subhashini Devi Dasi, Dandavat, Indumukhi. Again, Darjeeling, she's moved to the other side. Saraswati Devi, Jai, Srila Bhakti, Seva Nrishikesh Maharaj, and all the devotees there in Abhazia. Braja Sundari Devi Dasi in Israel. Gaur Nataraj Das, 50 meters away from where I'm standing. Kali Kadambanana DD in Australia, I assume. Ananda Swarup Prabhu. Rupa Vilas Prabhu. Again, there's Sri Lanka again. Siberian. The Tomsk temple with the Kadashi. Hare Krishna. Nityananda Das doing the Russian translation. Sulakshana DD doing Chinese. Prem Narayan Prabhu on his boat, like the lotus feet of Mahaprabhu, compared to a boat to take us over the ocean of nations. Shakira Didi Dandavat and Anandita Devidasi. There's Nalina Nayana Dandavat. Is that Ram Sundar's head that I see? Yeah. Hare Krishna. Ram Sundar Prabhu Dandavat. Of course, Madhusudan again. Ravendra Krishna Prabhu, Shama Balava Didi. Here. Hare Krishna. Oh, it looks like Sulalita. Jai, Sulalita Didi, and others. Hare Krishna. Aha, Leela Sundar Prabhu. Here. From Hare Krishna, Sophia Didi. Ratyan Krishna Prabhu. Sugandha Kanti Dandavat. Priya Krishna. Oh, she's in Vrindavan. So all the places Madhusudan was just describing, she just came from there. Or she is there. Rakaleka Didi. Gavin Dandavat. Bobo's associate. Supriya Didi, Dandavat, Hare Krishna, Trilokanath Prabhu, my Dandavats, Vijayanti and Janava Devi, Dandavat, Bijoy Krishna Prabhu, Hare Krishna, Dandavat, Adi Dev Prabhu, Dandavat, Jadu Gopal Prabhu, Dandavat, Saraswati Didi, our West London manager, Dandavat Didi. No, there's West London, Keshavananda Prabhu. Right. He's gearing up for Tuesday, Wednesday, and the continued parikrama. He's eternally in parikrama mode. Dayavati Devi Dandavat, Suchitra, or Dandavat Stiyo, Purushottam Prabhu, Dandavat. Anyone? Adi Dev, yes. Yes. Harimati, Dandavat, Ajita Krishna Prabhu, always. Hare Krishna. Pardon me? Suresh Krishna Prabhu in Riga. What is her name? Radha what?
Oh, Radha Sundari.
Radha Sundari. Pavan Krishna Prabhu. Kamalini. Dinatarini Didi. She's actually helping us expand the Zoom broadcast. And Dandavat.
That Lalita is last year Supriya's friend, Lalita Priya.
Oh,
She also from
yeah.
China. She knows her face,
Yeah.
but she always deals with that.
Oh, Dandavat, Lalita Priya, Dandavat. Isri Didi, Dr. Jai Kumar. Hey, Hare Krishna, and Charulata. And isn't his son's name Krishna?
Tarun Krishna.
Tarun Krishna, the young Krishna. Hare Krishna. All right, my Vancha Kalpa Tribhyascha, Kripa Sindhu Bevacha, Patitanam Pavanebhyo, Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Dandavat, everyone. Jai Sri Gurudev. Hare Krishna.
And Pritu Prabhu also.
Pritu.
Jai Pritu Prabhu.
Yes. The rock of Lakta. Oh, I see. That's when it says Saraswati. Yes. Hare Krishna. Jai Pritu.
And a big mention to our translators, Maharaj Nityananda Prabhu and Sulakshana Devi Dasi, tirelessly presenting the flow of your nectar in their languages. Jai.
Hare Krishna. My dandavats to everyone. And they're in Ursk, right? Sulalita?
Yes,
Right?
Maharaj.
Orenburg, dandavat. Hare Krishna. The other two deities with her are?
Oh, there are 4 people.
Their names.
Oh, you can unmute.
I can tell when there's 4 people.
Unmute her for a second. Okay.
Nalini, Gokula Tarani, Ajitash, and Ajitash is listening.
Hare Krishna. And Sulalita, who is with you? Don't say-
Dandavat Gurudev.
Yes. Who is with you?
Dandavat. Malini Didi.
Malini.
Gurudev Dandavat. Yes.
Hare Krishna.
This is Sushmita Devi Dasi. Dandavat Gurudev.
Oh, yeah.
Gakula Taruни.
Marani. Babushka Brenda Ki. Hi, my dandavats to everybody. Good to see you.
Dandavat Gurudev.
Hare Krishna.
Jai Shri Bhakti Sudhir Goswami Maharaj ki Jai. Dandavat Pranam.